February 2024 article written in Over the Road magazine. Know what rules are there for your benefit. February is almost always a tight month for personal finances and sometimes business finances as well. Taking off time during the holidays and having a low cash flow in January will produce sacrifices in February. In the month of Febuary, scrutiny of details is the flavor of the month. Individuals do it and businesses do it too. Living on a tight margin of error creates conflicts. What is helpful to get through the tight times and what is not? Deciding to use your credit card to go on a holiday does not help your longer-term goal of debt-free living. That doesn't mean it's still not tempting. It certainly is. But that choice is not helpful. Choosing to stay home for an extra day or two will not help the financial margin either. When you're in a situation of all hands on deck, it doesn't help to have a hand voting in favor of going on a skiing trip. Managing finances is all about priorities and systems. Even when someone has no wiggle room, it's always a system of priorities. I remember a couple of decades ago when I was going through a real difficult time financially, not paying the telephone so we can pay the hydro. Then next month, not paying the hydro so that we can keep our phone operating. There are seasons of life when things are really tight. The key is to not give up, not lose heart, and say, to hell with it, I'm going to Cancun. Because when you get back, your problem is even worse. A system tells your finances what to do rather than having your finances tell you what you can and cannot do. One of the greatest advantages incorporation has on financial management is separating personal and business money. Corporations have rules assigned to managing finances. When you are a self-employed operator, the rules are nearly non-existent. But corporations are clearly defined. Following restrictive rules is not in many people's DNA. We all like to do what we want to do when we want to do it. Following the rules for a corporation allows for a safe and secure method of cash flow management. Following no rules for self-employed will tend to create a financial conflict unless you impose your own rules, such as putting money aside for future taxes. If you see the benefits of following rules, you will love non-taxable benefits. Following the rules to non-taxable benefits will save $12,000 a year in taxes. It's the reason I wrote my first book. It's one of the only reasons operators should even go the incorporation route. It may well complicate your process for managing cash flow in your business and personal life, but for $1,000 a month, it's well worth the few hours a month dedication you will need for it. National averages have operators gross taxable income of $65,000 to $70,000 in taxable income. They pay between $12,000 to $20,000 in taxes. All else being equal, an operator using non-taxable benefits pays only $2,000 to $8,000. The tax savings to husband and wife teams is double that, $24,000. This is using the exact same miles and expenses for comparisons. It's a real game changer. However, there is a problem with the system. People don't use it. Too many operators think that just incorporating saves the taxes. Nope. You have to follow the rules to non-taxable benefits. You have to use the system to create the benefit. It takes some learning, but not nearly as much as you think. Compared to a logbook, ELD or otherwise, submitting yourself to non-taxable rules is a snap. Easy. If you're not attached to cash. If you grab the cash without following the rules, you pay the same rate as if you're self-employed. You miss out on $12,000 in savings. Follow the rules, gain the benefit. Without a doubt, these times are difficult for some operators. Every penny counts to build after-tax wealth. If you are looking for more operational and industry advice, look up our podcast, Making Your Miles Count. Our long-form podcast can assist you in your business. That's a good article. I kind of like that one. It's a very personal article about managing finances personally. Whether you manage finances personally or business, technically it should be no different or the like, but we get a lot emotional involvement in cash and that power of purchase, and some people get a lot of dopamine on that. And probably the biggest way to reduce your dependence on that dopamine is actually go through a serious financial crisis. I know quite a few operators, not many maybe, but a good couple of dozen, 2-3 dozen, who've gone through a bankruptcy, for instance. That crisis is fairly significant in a person's life, and that trains a person, or it should train a person to fear overspending. And most people who do go through a bankruptcy, it actually does them well, because several reasons. First of all, it gives them a good fear of overspending, and the second is that you actually can't overspend when you go through a bankruptcy, because basically all your credit cards are gone. You can only work on cash anyway, and it's just, if you have no other choice, well, then you learn the discipline. It is so much better to learn the discipline before you get punished for not learning the discipline. I can't necessarily say that, especially in my life, I don't always learn it by thinking it through. I sometimes have to be slapped upside the head before I realize what I'm doing wrong. But I think the older I get, the more mature I am in terms of thinking through what I'm doing just before I do it. Like I've said in many other several other podcasts and the like, I went through an 10-year time where I lost money every single year, and the only way to meet payroll, for instance, for my accounting firm, I had to drive on Fridays and Saturdays, and I had to sell off assets in order to meet payroll. And sometimes, in order to make payroll, in order to make payments on things, I had to sell off assets. 10 years of high crisis financial management has given me a very strong fear for overspending. So probably some people might think I'm cheap, but realistically, I don't believe I'm cheap. I'm frugal. I just say, is this going to positively affect me, give me a return on investment or not? And age and good old-fashioned kick in the pants will give you a good sense of whether you're acting emotionally or whether you're really doing something that's going to benefit you or not. And Shakespeare once said, I have met the enemy, and it is I. And I agree. My biggest enemy is me. And more than likely, your biggest enemy, it's not Canada Revenue Agency. It's not the truck financing people. It's you. That's the biggest thing. Lower your expectations until such a time as you have no obligations, and then you can raise your expectations. That's a good saying. I just made that up. If you lower your expectations, you can eliminate your obligations, so that you can then later on increase your expectations. That's a little bit like Dave Ramsey, his saying. What did he say? Live like no one else, so that later you can live like no one else. Live and give like no one else. That's pretty good. I'm a big believer in sacrifice, and even if I've never been extremely wealthy, but I would consider myself very, very financially stable and secure. realistically, I always have to look at areas in my life. I have to be significantly sacrificing in some areas of my life. Always. There's always some category, multiple categories that I'm waiting for something, that I don't have quite enough money to do this project, that project. I'm always cognitive in my mind that wait a minute, I can't afford that. I can't afford that. I can't afford that. I think that's healthy. I would never in a million years like to be a multi-billionaire. To have that much freedom, I think I would probably go a little bit nuts. There's if you don't discipline yourself, I think you eventually kill yourself. Maybe not physically, but for sure emotionally in some areas. Too much money is bad. In almost 30 years of being an accountant, I've had a lot of really, really highly successful people. I'd say probably about 80% of the operators who have made $150,000, $200,000 a year or more, 80% of them are in debt way above my comfort level at any level in my life. And they're not very happy. All they're doing is working like crazy to pay for the toys. They have some very significant toys. And I have also had some individuals who've been my clients for 20, 25 plus years, who's never seemed to make anything more than $40,000, $45,000 in a year. Maybe a good year, $50,000. But after 20 years, well, they have their house almost paid for, or very, very close to being paid for. They have some RSPs, they have this, and they have that. There's a whole bunch of different, they have real equity, after-tax equity. Though I guess RSPs wouldn't necessarily be classified as after-tax equity, but it has deferred taxes. But in a situation, they have real wealth. They have hands-on wealth. And so it's not so much how much you make, it's how much you're able to keep, how much you're able to store up for later. Anyway, that's my thoughts for today. Good article. I like writing for Over the Road magazine. A great bunch of people there. Okay, other than that, have a great trip.